Good morning. Today we are going to discuss about micro teaching. A teacher makes use of a number of methods and techniques to make the teaching effective, successful, and interesting. The technique includes motivating, explaining, questioning, writing on the blackboard, using teaching aids, and so on. The teacher could also make use of nonverbal behaviors such as smiling, nodding, and gesturing. These group of activities are called skills. So, teaching is a various combination of skills. Micro teaching includes to a teacher technique to a wide range of teaching skills and allows the teacher trainee to practice each skill one hour at a time until he or she becomes proficient in the skill. Definition of a micro teaching. The word microteaching was formed by A.W. Dwight Allen during 1963, defined microteaching as a scaled down teaching encounter in class size and class time. Allen defined microteaching as a system of controlled practice that makes it possible to concentrate on specific teaching behavior and to practice teaching under controlled conditions. Microteaching is reduced teaching. Here, new skills are polished. MC Knight 1971. Microteaching is a teacher training technique. Here, a teacher trainee teaches a short lesson of about 5 minutes duration to a small group of students participating one teaching skill at a time. Now we are going to see about need and importance of micro teaching. In teaching learning process, we can't use single skill at the same time. If a teacher wants to be good in teaching, he should be given training in all teaching skills one by one. For this, micro teaching is more useful. Here, each skill is looked like through microscope instead of wait what to teach. How to teach is considered. The beauty of this method is teacher trainee get unproblematic artificial atmosphere instead of natural classroom atmosphere. This method is very helpful to improve the teaching skills and to remove the difficulties in teaching. Now we are going to see about characteristics of micro teaching. First one is micro teaching is a teacher technique and not a teaching method. Second one is it is a real teaching but it focuses on developing teaching skill and competencies. Third one is in micro teaching, the teacher trainee practices one specific teaching skill at a time till he or she attains mastery over the skill. Fourth one is class size is reduced to 5 to 6 students. Fifth one is duration of the class is 5 to 6 minutes. Sixth one is micro teaching is a cyclic process. The pre-decided model is plan, teach, feedback, replan, re-feedback. It is repeated till the trainee achieves the expected level of mastery. Seventh one is micro teaching is practice in terms of definable, observable, measurable, and controllable teaching skills. Now we are going to see about micro teaching cycle. Micro teaching is a method that enables a teacher trainee to practice one teaching skill till he or she attains mastery over the skill. The practice phase is the most important phase of the micro teaching program. In this phase, the teacher trainee chooses a specific skill, prepares a micro lesson plan, and teaches a small group of students for a duration of 5 to 6 students. We follow few steps to get training in the skill. These steps are called micro teaching cycle. Steps in micro teaching cycle. First one is selecting a skill. This involves selection of a teaching skill, practice knowing its components clearly. Second one is observing model lesson. Teacher educator will present a model micro teaching lesson plan of the selected skill. Trainee observe it carefully. Third one is preparing lesson plan. Teacher trainee has a prepare a lesson plan for 5 to 6 minutes for the selected teaching skill. In lesson plan, all the components of the skill should be presented in a appropriate place. Fourth one is teaching. The trainee teaches the lesson for 5 to 6 minutes. There will be 5 to 6 students or peers with teacher, educator, or one or two persons as supervisor if possible. Record the teaching methods of the trainee by video or audio tape. Fifth one is feedback. The supervisors analyzes the performance and discusses it with the teacher trainee. The feedback should focus on components of the teaching skill and draw attention to modification for mastery the skill. Replanning. Replanning means in the light of the feedback received from the supervisor or peer observers. The teacher trainee replans their micro lesson plan by writing another lesson plan or model the existing one on the basis of feedback. Reteaching. The teacher trainee reteaches the revised lesson plan to another group of students. The supervisor checks to see whether there is any important in skill attained. This process repeats till the teacher trainee acquires the required level of competency. Now we are once again we are going to see about steps in micro cycles. Steps. First one is selecting a skill. Second one is observing model lesson. Third one is preparing lesson plan. Fourth one is teaching. Fifth one is feedback. Sixth one is replanning. Seventh one is reteaching. Now we are going to see about uses of micro teaching. Micro teaching techniques increases the effectiveness of the teacher training programs in the following ways. There is first 8 steps followed in this. First one is micro teaching helps in reducing the complexes of the normal classroom teaching. This helps the teacher trainees gain more confidence in classroom teaching. Micro teaching gives the knowledge of various skills. It is useful for developing teaching efficiency. Micro teaching prepares training to effective and better teacher. Micro teaching creates among the teacher trainee an awareness of the various skill of which teaching is composed of. Sixth one is each trainee makes progress in developing teaching skills at his own speed depending his ability. Seventh one is using video or audio tape enable the trainee to analyze his own teaching performance. Eighth one is feedback enable the teacher trainee to analyze his own teaching performance. Feedback enable the teacher trainee to continuously concentrate on specific behavior modification. Now, uses of micro teaching, there are 8 steps we have seen. Once again, you have to remember this and all, okay? Now we are going to see about micro teaching and macro teaching. What is the difference between micro teaching and macro teaching? Yeah, let's see about this. Now, first of all, we are discussing about micro teaching. Okay, first one is it is a teacher training technique. Micro teaching is a teacher training technique. Macro teaching means what? It is a method of classroom teaching. Okay. Second one is class size is 5 to 6 students. In macro teaching, class size is more than 40. Third one is macro teaching, duration of the class size is 6 to 10 minutes. Okay. But macro teaching duration of the class is 4 to 45. Sorry, duration of the class 40 to 45 minutes. Fourth one is in micro teaching, one or two teaching skills are used. But in macro teaching, maximum teaching skills are used. In micro teaching, importance is given to skill. But macro teaching, importance is given to content. In micro teaching, it puts the teacher under the microscope. But in macro teaching, no such arrangement for macro teaching. In macro teaching, all the faults of the teacher are observed. But in macro teaching, no such arrangement for macro teaching. In micro teaching, feedback is given. But in macro teaching, no feedback is given. In micro teaching, opportunity to reteach the lesson. But in macro teaching, no such arrangement. In micro teaching, no importance is given to students' needs. In macro teaching, importance is given to students' needs. In micro teaching, no lesson classroom activities for students. But in macro teaching, classroom activities will be given. In micro teaching, it tends to reduce the creativity of the teachers. In macro teaching, it increases the creativity of the teachers. In micro teaching can be successful in a controlled environment only. But in macro teaching can be successful in any environment. Teaching is relatively simple, but in macro teaching, teaching becomes complex. In micro teaching is done with all the sensory resources, but in macro teaching relies on auditory learning and recall. Dear students, now we are going to see about identification of a teaching skill. A teacher skill is a set of activities or actions of the teacher which are repeated a number of times during the course of teaching. Here we are going to see about characteristics of teaching skills. One by one we are going to see, okay? Now first one is teaching skill or the specific instructional activities. First one is teaching skills or the specific instructional activities. Second one is teaching skills are verbal and non-verbal in nature. Third one is a teaching skill includes activities and actions. Fourth one is teaching skills involve the teacher's activities which are performed in classroom. Teaching skills develop the communicative competency. Then last one is teaching skills help effective presentation of content in classroom. Dear students, now we are going to see about characteristics of teaching skills. Okay, first one is teaching skills of the specific instructional activities. Then second one is teaching skills are verbal and non-verbal in nature. Third one is teaching skills involve activities and actions. Fourth one is teaching skills involve the teacher's activities which are performed in classroom. Then fifth one is teaching skills develop the communicative competency. Sixth one is teaching skills help effective personal of content in classroom. Now we are going to see about list of teaching skills given by Alan and Ryan. First one is one by one we are going to say about list of teaching skills given by Alan and Ryan. First one is stimulus variation. Second one is set induction. Third one is closure. Fourth one is teacher silent and non-verbal cues. Fifth one is reinforcing people participation. Sixth one is fluency in questioning. Seventh one probing questioning. Eighth one use of higher order questions. Ninth one divergent questions. Tenth one recognizing and attending behavior. 11th one illustration and use of examples. 12th one is lecturing. Once again we are going to see about list of teaching skills given by Alan and Ryan. First one is stimulus variation. Second one is set induction. Third one is closure. Fourth one is teacher silence and non-verbal cues, reinforcing people participation. Sixth one is fluency in questioning. Seventh one is probing questioning. Eighth one is use of higher order questions. Ninth one is divergent questions. Tenth one recognizing and attending behavior. 11th one is instructing and use of examples. 12th one is lecturing. Dear students, Today we are discussed about micro teaching. Once again, we want to remain on this and all, and again, today we are concluding this topic. Okay, okay. Thank you, students.